Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're going to talk about some things that I wish I knew when I started fishing. I get a lot of questions from the younger generations that want to excel in the sport, and they don't necessarily want to make the same mistakes that I have, or they just want to learn quickly and they don't want to go through those trials and tribulations. So over my career, I've got a lot of things that I wish I had known when I started fishing. And when I mean started fishing, I'm talking probably back in my mid-teens. That's when I started getting into tournament fishing. That's when I actually started thinking about bass fishing from a career standpoint. But I didn't really have a mentor in terms of the tournament world. I had my dad, my grandpa, and uncle. We had a lot of fishing in my family, but it was very much just fishing from an entertainment standpoint. Nobody really fished from a tournament perspective. In fact, the first tournament I think any of us fished was my first one when my dad and I did it. I was like 16 years old. So I didn't really know what I was doing. You can read Bassmaster and all the magazines, Fishing Facts, In Fisherman, Bassin. I got them all, and I read them all. But unless somebody shows you how to do it, a lot of times it takes you a while to really figure it out on your own. And that's what I want to do today, is go over some of those things that I learned on my own that I just wish somebody had pointed out sooner, because they made such an important change in my fishing. Like, they opened up my eyes to how to become a better angler based on these adjustments. A lot of times I think I put the emphasis on the wrong thing. So therefore, that's what we're going to talk about today. Before I do get into that, I want to remind you guys that if you want to support the channel, please check out my members only page. I do additional videos, do a monthly live stream. You get direct access to me to ask me your questions. A lot of good, valuable stuff within that, so check out the membership. Also, if you're looking for another way to support the channel, please do your tackle purchasing through tacklewarehouse.com using my affiliate link. You can bookmark that affiliate link for future purchases. It's just a great way to support the channel. Every dime comes right back into making content to hopefully make you guys a better angler and myself a better angler. It's a two-way street with this channel. All right, so let's talk about the first thing here. One of the first things that I wish somebody had gone over with me is the importance of the rod, line, and reel combination that you're choosing based on what you're fishing. Now, what I mean by that is, for me, when I started out, I had a couple of rods, like 2 or 3 rods. And generally speaking, I just was buying whatever Bass Pro Shops combo they had. Most of it was like bionic blades. I eventually moved up to the Pro Qualifier level and then up to the Johnny Moore Signature Series level as I got older. But for me, it was all about, look at this combo I can get for sale. It's half off. So I would just go buy generally what was a 6-foot or a 6.5-foot medium heavy rod with whatever, bait cast reel it came with. And as great as that was in terms of allowing me to get equipment at cheap prices, I was not buying the equipment based on the techniques that I like to fish. And it's not just the rod and reel decision, it's also the line that you choose. It makes such an important impact on the technique that you're fishing. So for example, I started out when the frog craze began. I was definitely one that loved the frog because it was a topwater, it was easy to fish, and it was something that I enjoyed fishing. Well, I started throwing it out on a 6.5-foot medium heavy rod with 12-pound monofilament, Berkeley XL monofilament line. Well, what I quickly found out was I was landing maybe 10% of the bites that I got. So I started reading up on a frog. Oh, I got to throw braided line. So then I switched to braided line, and I found out I was probably landing 50% of the bites that I got. But I still wasn't happy with it. And the more I read up on frog fishing, the more I realized, oh, hey, I should throw a little bit stiffer rod. Doesn't need to be much longer, but it should probably be a little heavier than what I would consider a light medium heavy. I did that, and all of a sudden you're catching 90% of the bites that you're getting. So the impact is drastic there, and it's across the board for so many different things. In fact, my problem is I then realized, oh, braid is great for this. So then I started using braid on everything, and it hurt some of the other techniques that I was fishing. My crankbait fishing All of a sudden took a dive because I had been using monofilament and now I'm throwing braid and I just felt like I wasn't fishing it as good. Same thing goes for like my jig fishing, my flipping. I switched everything over to braid, which isn't a bad idea. But what I found out is I was getting less bites and I wasn't fishing a lot of conditions where I should have been throwing braid. So there was a lot of learning that took, me years to figure out on my own of the right rod, reel, line combination. So don't overlook that. It is really one of the most important things in terms of improving your performance. So that's one thing. Another thing had to do with the importance of fishing your own spots and learning it on your own. I think there's this natural tendency of anglers to go out and every boat that you see around the lake, you just assume they're catching fish. And the reality is most people are probably not catching fish. So when you drive by a spot and you see a boat fishing there, don't just think, oh, it's a great spot, because they may have no clue as to why they're there. They may not have caught any fish. So the importance of you going out and figuring it out on your own is crucial. The more you figure it out on your own, the more you're going to be able to relate that to future places and figure out why you're catching those fish. It's one of the things that really bugs me today with the fishing generation, not just younger generation. It's everyone at this point. There's this assumption that all you have to do is get waypoints and you're going to go out there and crack on them. And the reality is a lot of times you can't fish somebody else's spot. But if you learn how to catch them on your own, you learn what spots are good, you can replicate that versus wondering why you're not catching them off of somebody else's spot. So that is a crucial thing. A third idea comes down to bait selection and more specifically bait color. For me, once I caught a fish on a bait, it was like that color was good. And then I would take that bait in that same color and try to replicate those bites in other lakes. But what I never recognized was the importance of the water color, the water clarity, time of year, the color. I just assumed because I caught a fish on that bait in that color before that it was going to be good. And the reality is I may have had a bait in, say, fire tiger color, which was one of my favorite colors when I was younger because I fished a lot of dirty water. But then I would go to a lake that was gin clear, throw the same bait, and question why I wasn't catching as many fish. And a lot of that comes down to color selection. So I wish somebody had just grabbed me and said, keep it simple, stupid. If you're on dirty water, you should probably be throwing dark colors, your blacks, your blues, or really bright, your fluorescents, your white, that type, something that's really bright and stands out. And if you're fishing clear water, you should keep it somewhat natural or translucent. So your browns, your greens, a translucent bait. So if it's a jerk bait, maybe you want to be able to see through it a little bit. Things like that make an impact. And it's a very simple recognition of color that will help improve your performance on the water. The next one has to do with probably one of my most important things I've learned through my professional tournament fishing, and that comes down to the conditions that you're fishing. I cannot stress enough that if you are in post-front condition days, like today, we've had several days of rain. We've just had a week of warmer weather this fall. We got 3 or 4 days of rain. The fronts finally moved through. It's 37 degrees right now. And there's like not a cloud in the sky. Post-front, bluebird conditions, and this generally holds up more in cold water periods. So the fall, the spring, if you have conditions like this, do not force that moving bait bite. You may have been on the best jerk bait or spinner bait bite prior to this, and then it'll just disappear. What you want to do is a general rule of thumb is fish the bottom and fish a slow moving bait. When you have conditions like this, you will increase the number of your bites without a doubt in these conditions by using a bottom bait and a slow moving bait. So it could be a drop shot, it could be a Ned rig, it could be a football jig. Ideally, you just want to fish something slow that stays in the fish's wheelhouse longer. They generally will not come up and chase a bait like a jerk bait or a spinner bait or come off the bottom. They just will not do it. You may catch one here and there, but as a rule of thumb, you don't want to use it. The last thing just has to do with experience. Don't ever think that your experience and personal time on the water can be overruled by anything else in the sport. You can read every book that you want. You can watch every show that you want, but you have to get out on the water and apply it for yourself. This was something I always had issue with. Growing up in Chicago, I was 2 hours away from like the nearest lake that I could get out and do. So yes, it's great to read and watch videos and things like this and try to learn from anyone else. But until you get out on the water and apply it yourself, it doesn't mean that much. It doesn't like instill those thoughts into your own brain's database until you go ahead and do it. You have to apply everything that you learn. And the only way I know to do that is to be on the water yourself. So don't ever underestimate the importance of time on the water. So when you get that opportunity, take advantage of it. It really is crucial to improving your skills within this sport. So that's 5 things. That's 5 things that I wish I knew. If you like this video, I will do more of these for you because I have so many little things that I wish I knew when I was 16, 18, 25 even. I mean, it's one of those things that I just want to use my experience to help you guys catch more. So if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comment section. I can do lots more of these. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned. We'll have a new one coming out tomorrow for you.